A porcelain plate shattered against the marble floor. The chef who had prepared the dish flinched so hard that he nearly stumbled backward. Across the long dining table, Kang Tae-hyun slowly placed down his fork. No, the single word felt heavier than a threat. The chef swallowed. Sir, perhaps if I leave. The man's face drained of color. Two security guards immediately stepped forward. Within seconds, the chef was escorted out of the mansion. The room fell silent. Another failure, another rejection. Tae-hyun leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. His assistant glanced at the list in his hands and sighed. That makes 57. Nobody replied. Everyone in the mansion knew better than to comment. Over the past 6 months, some of the most talented chefs in the country had come through those doors. Every one of them had failed. Some lasted an hour, some lasted a day, none lasted a week. The rumors had spread across Seoul. Working for Kang Tae-hyun was impossible. What nobody knew was the reason. Months earlier, his personal chef had died after being poisoned. The meal had been intended for Tae-hyun. Since then, trust had become a luxury he could no longer afford. His assistant checked the list again. One applicant remains. Tae-hyun stood, send her in. A few minutes later, Sophia Bennett stepped into the mansion. Her palms were sweating. The building alone looked larger than the neighborhood where she lived. Everything around her screamed wealth and power. She felt completely out of place. Earlier that morning, she had almost talked herself out of coming, but she needed this job. Her family's restaurant was drowning in debt. Bills were piling up. Collectors called almost every day. Her mother's medical expenses kept increasing. This opportunity was her last hope. As she entered the kitchen, several staff members exchanged doubtful looks. One of them whispered, "She's the final candidate." Another laughed quietly. Sophia pretended not to hear. The assistant handed her a list. Prepare a meal. She glanced down. The ingredients available were expensive and exotic. Most applicants would probably use them to create something extravagant. Sophia looked around the kitchen. Then she made a completely different decision. An hour later, the dish sat before Kang Tae-hyun. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't complicated. It was simple comfort food. The room waited. Tae-hyun took a bite. His face remained expressionless. Then he set down his chopsticks. Seasoning is wrong. Sophia blinked. She had expected criticism. What she hadn't expected was the sudden irritation rising inside her. No, room froze. One of the guards actually looked shocked. Nobody disagreed with Kang Tae-hyun. Nobody. Tae-hyun slowly lifted his gaze. What did you say? Sophia took a breath. If the seasoning feels wrong, it's because you're expecting something stronger. His eyes narrowed. She continued anyway. But the entire point of the dish is balance. If I increased the seasoning, it would overpower everything else. Silence became suffocating. His assistant looked ready to faint. Sophia wondered if she had just destroyed her only chance. Then something unexpected happened. Tae-hyun took another bite, and another. A faint smile touched his lips. The first anyone had seen all week. Interesting. His assistant nearly dropped the clipboard. For the next hour, Tae-hyun questioned her relentlessly about food, about pressure, about mistakes, about trust. Sophia answered honestly every time. She didn't flatter him. She didn't tell him what he wanted to hear. She simply told the truth. By the end of the interview, Tae-hyun stood. When can you start? Sophia stared. What? When can you start working? She blinked several times. Tomorrow. Just like that, her life changed. The following morning, Sophia arrived before sunrise. The mansion already buzzed with activity. Security guards stood at every entrance. Luxury vehicles moved in and out of the compound. People treated Tae-hyun with a level of respect that bordered on fear. By lunchtime, Sophia understood why every employee followed instructions immediately. Nobody questioned him. Nobody challenged him. Nobody except her. 3 days into the job, she watched him push away his lunch. You barely touched it. His assistant nearly had a heart attack. Sophia had spoken without thinking. Tae-hyun looked up. It's fine. No, it's not. Assistant looked ready to resign. Sophia pointed at the plate. You skipped breakfast too. A long pause followed. Then surprisingly, Tae-hyun picked up his fork again. The assistant stared in disbelief. For some reason, Tae-hyun listened to her. As the weeks passed, that became impossible to ignore. Sophia learned his routines, his coffee preferences, the foods he avoided, the nights he barely slept. She also noticed something else. He looked lonely. People obeyed him. People feared him. But nobody treated him normally. One night, while cleaning the kitchen, she heard a noise. Curious, she walked toward it, then stopped. Kang Tae-hyun was sitting alone at the counter, eating instant noodles. Sophia stared. The feared man who owned half the city looked like a guilty teenager caught stealing snacks. For a second, neither moved. Then she laughed, actually laughed. Tae-hyun looked offended. What's funny? You reject world-class chefs. She pointed at the noodles. Then you eat that. For a moment, she thought she had crossed a line. Then something extraordinary happened. He laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't long, but it was real. And for the first time, the distance between them felt smaller. Neither of them realized it yet, but that moment would change everything. Because while Sophia was slowly becoming the one person who could make Kang Tae-hyun smile, someone else had already begun watching her, and they were waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Over the next few weeks, Sophia became an unexpected part of Kang Tae-hyun's daily life. At first, neither of them noticed it, then everyone else did. If Tae-hyun returned from a meeting in a bad mood, he headed straight to the kitchen. If he worked late into the night, he somehow ended up sitting across from Sophia while she prepared the next day's ingredients. If she wasn't around, he seemed irritated for reasons he couldn't explain. The staff noticed. The guards noticed. Even his assistant noticed. Only Tae-hyun refused to admit it. Sophia wasn't much better. Every morning she told herself he was simply her employer. Every evening she found herself wondering if he had eaten properly. The realization irritated her. He was powerful, dangerous, mysterious, and completely impossible to understand. One afternoon, she finally asked the question that had been bothering her. "Why does everyone look terrified of you?" Tae-hyun glanced up from the documents on his desk. "You aren't. Maybe because I met you before I met your reputation." A faint smile appeared. Smart answer. It wasn't an answer. Smile widened. She realized she had won, a rare occurrence. "You really want to know?" "Yes." Tae-hyun became quiet. For several seconds, he seemed lost in thought. Then he spoke. "People fear power." Sophia frowned. "That's not all." His expression darkened. "It's not." Before she could ask more, his phone rang. The conversation ended, but the question stayed with her. A few days later, she accidentally discovered the answer herself. She had gone out to purchase ingredients for the kitchen. While driving back, she noticed a crowd gathered outside a small hospital. Curious, she slowed down, then she froze. Kang Tae-hyun was standing near the entrance, not surrounded by guards, not attending a business meeting, not giving orders. Instead, he was quietly speaking with an elderly woman. The woman suddenly burst into tears. Moments later, she grabbed his hands. Sophia watched as Tae-hyun gently reassured her. Confused, she asked one of the hospital workers what was happening. The answer stunned her. "The surgery was approved this morning." "Surgery? The woman's grandson needs treatment." Worker smiled. "Mr. Kang paid for everything." Sophia blinked. "What?" The worker nodded. "He does it all the time." Words hit her hard. All the rumors, all the fear, all the stories, none of them mentioned this. Over the next week, Sophia started paying attention. The pattern appeared everywhere. A struggling school suddenly received funding. A local shelter avoided closure. Families received help anonymously. Every trail led back to one person, Kang Tae-hyun, the man everyone called a monster. The man secretly helping people when nobody was watching. One evening she finally confronted him. "Been hiding things?" Tae-hyun raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dramatic. You pay hospital bills." Silence. "You support schools." More silence. "You help people." He slowly put down his glass, and Sophia stared at him. "Hide it." For the first time, something vulnerable crossed his face, a look she had never seen before. "My mother died because we couldn't afford treatment." Sophia froze. The room suddenly felt smaller. Tae-hyun looked away. "When I was young, I promised myself that if I ever had power, nobody around me would suffer for the same reason." His voice remained calm, but she could hear the pain underneath, years of it. Suddenly she understood, not everything, but enough. "You loved her." The words escaped before she could stop them. Tae-hyun nodded. "Much." Sophia's chest tightened. For the first time, she saw not the feared businessman, not the powerful man everyone obeyed. Just a son who had lost his mother, and somehow survived. Their eyes met. Neither looked away. Something shifted, something dangerous. The kind of feeling neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Because once they did, there would be no pretending anymore. Days passed. The tension between them grew. Neither mentioned it, neither ignored it. One night, while preparing dinner, Sophia cut her finger. The knife slipped. Pain shot through her hand. Before she could react, someone grabbed her wrist. Tae-hyun. His expression darkened immediately. "Eating? It's just a scratch." "Down." I said. "It's fine. Sit." Command left no room for argument. Minutes later, he was carefully wrapping a bandage around her fingers. Sophia stared. The mighty Kang Tae-hyun looked genuinely worried. When he finally finished, he realized how close they were standing. The air changed instantly. Neither moved, neither spoke. Sophia's heartbeat became impossible to ignore. So did his. Then his phone rang. The moment shattered. Both stepped back. Neither mentioned what had almost happened. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. The next morning, Sophia received a phone call. Her smile vanished before the conversation even ended. Tae-hyun noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" She looked pale. "My brother." A terrible feeling settled in his stomach. What happened? Sophia sank into a chair. He owes money. How much? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. A lot. Truth turned out to be much worse. Her older brother Ethan had developed a gambling addiction. Over the past year, he had accumulated enormous debt. Debt he couldn't repay, debt that belonged to dangerous people, very dangerous people. When Tae-hyun learned who the creditors were, his expression hardened immediately. A rival organization, one that had been searching for ways to weaken him, one that hated him, one that would exploit any weakness they found. And now they had found one, Sophia. Unfortunately, she didn't realize it yet. 3 days later, she finished work later than usual. The streets were unusually quiet. She unlocked her car, got inside, started the engine. Then a cloth suddenly covered her mouth. Her eyes widened, the world blurred, darkness swallowed everything. Hours later, Kang Tae-hyun received a message. A video. His blood ran cold. Sophia appeared on the screen, tied to a chair, terrified, bruised, alive for now. Then another man stepped into view, a rival boss, smiling. You finally have something worth losing. Tae-hyun's grip tightened around the phone. The man continued. Surrender the territory, silence, or she dies. Video ended, the room exploded with tension. His advisors immediately began talking. She's one person. Can't risk a war. The cost would be enormous. Think rationally. Tae-hyun listened quietly, then stood. The room fell silent. His voice was calm, far too calm. Prepare the men. One advisor stared. You can't be serious. Tae-hyun's eyes became ice. IAM, war over a chef. The question hung in the air. Tae-hyun answered without hesitation. No, his jaw tightened. A war over the woman I love. And for the first time, every person in that room understood exactly how far he was willing to go. The room remained silent long after Kang Tae-hyun spoke. A war over the woman he loved. No one had ever heard those words come from him. Not once. For years, he had been known as a man who never let emotions influence his decisions. A man who always chose logic, profit, strategy, power. Now, for the first time, he was choosing someone. Sophia, his assistant, stared at him. You realize what this means? The rival organization has been waiting for an excuse. I know. People will get hurt. Tae-hyun's expression didn't change. They already hurt the wrong person. No one argued after that. The meeting ended. Preparations began immediately. Across the city, trusted men received calls. Vehicles were mobilized. Safe houses were secured. Information networks went to work. Every available resource focused on finding Sophia. Meanwhile, Sophia sat alone inside a dim room. Her wrists hurt. Her throat felt dry. Fear had become a constant companion. Hours earlier, she had screamed for help. Nobody came. Now she sat quietly thinking, hoping, praying. A metal door opened. A man stepped inside carrying a bottle of water. He placed it in front of her. Drink. Sophia hesitated. The man laughed. If we wanted you dead, you wouldn't still be breathing. She hated that he was right. Her hands trembled as she drank. The man crouched in front of her. You know why you're here? Sophia remained silent. You matter to him. That surprised her. The kidnapper smiled. Oh, he stood. You didn't know. Door closed again, leaving Sophia alone with her thoughts. You matter to him. The words replayed in her mind. She thought about the late-night conversations, the concern in his eyes when she cut her finger, the way he always seemed calmer around her, the way she felt whenever he entered a room. Suddenly, the truth became impossible to deny. She loved him, and the realization terrified her, because she might never get the chance to tell him. Back at the mansion, new information finally arrived. One of Tae-hyun's men rushed into the room. We found them. Every head turned. A location appeared on the screen, an abandoned industrial compound near the outskirts of the city. The rival organization had chosen it carefully, remote, defensible, difficult to approach. Tae-hyun studied the images, then he stood. His men immediately followed. One of the advisors stepped forward. You should stay behind. No, you're the target. This could be a trap. Tae-hyun grabbed his jacket. It is a trap. Advisor frowned. Then why go? Tae-hyun looked directly at him. Because she's there. No one tried to stop him again. Hours later, darkness covered the compound. Inside one of the warehouses, Sophia heard distant noises. At first, she thought she imagined them. Then came another sound, a crash, followed by shouting. Her heart jumped. More voices echoed through the building. Then came gunfire. The kidnappers reacted instantly. People ran through the corridors. Orders were shouted. Weapons were drawn. Something was happening, something big. The door to her room suddenly opened. 2 armed men rushed inside. One grabbed her arm. Move. Sophia stumbled forward. Fear surged through her chest. The men dragged her down a hallway. Then an explosion shook the building. The floor trembled. Lights flickered. One of the kidnappers cursed. The other looked nervous, very nervous. Suddenly, shouting erupted from the opposite end of the corridor. A second later, several armed men appeared. Gunfire exploded. The kidnappers pushed Sophia aside and fired back. Chaos consumed everything. Sophia dropped to the ground, covering her head, trying not to scream. The firefight intensified, then she heard a familiar voice. Sophia, her head snapped upward. Kang Tae-hyun. For a moment she thought she was hallucinating. Then she saw him clearly. He was fighting his way through the corridor, closer, closer, closer. Relief hit her so hard that tears filled her eyes. Tae-hyun. The moment he reached her, he pulled her into his arms. Neither spoke, neither needed to. She was alive. That was all that mattered. We are leaving. She nodded. They started moving. The exit wasn't far. For the first time, hope felt real. Then everything changed. A gunshot echoed behind them. Tae-hyun's eyes widened. He turned instantly. A rival gunman stood at the end of the corridor, weapon raised, trigger pulled. There wasn't enough time. Tae-hyun shoved Sophia aside. Pain exploded through his body. The bullet struck him. Sophia screamed. Tae-hyun, he collapsed. The world seemed to stop. For one horrifying second, she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. Then his men rushed forward. The gunman was neutralized. Medical personnel appeared. Voices shouted around her. But Sophia barely heard them. All she saw was Tae-hyun lying on the ground, motionless. Hours later, hospital lights glowed overhead. Doctors worked frantically. The surgery lasted for hours. Every minute felt like an eternity. Sophia refused to leave. His assistant offered food. She refused. Water. She refused. Rest. She refused. Nothing mattered. Only him. Finally, a doctor emerged. Surgery was successful. Sophia nearly collapsed with relief. But the waiting wasn't over. Tae-hyun remained unconscious. 1 day passed, then 2, then 3. Sophia stayed beside him the entire time. On the 4th morning she felt movement. Her eyes immediately opened. Tae-hyun's fingers twitched, then his eyes slowly opened. For a moment, confusion crossed his face. Then he saw her. Tears instantly filled Sophia's eyes. "You idiot." His voice sounded weak. A laugh escaped her through the tears. "You got shot, I noticed." She shook her head, then the words finally came, the words she thought she might never get the chance to say. "Love you." Silence. Emotion filled his eyes. "I was starting to worry you'd never figure it out." A watery laugh escaped her. "You knew. I fell in love with you the day you argued with me during the interview." Sophia covered her face. "You are impossible." That's what 57 chefs said. The first time in days, they both laughed. 1 year later, sunlight filled a beautiful restaurant. Customers packed every table. The grand opening had exceeded every expectation. Sophia stood near the entrance, overwhelmed. Her dream had finally become reality. Then she discovered something shocking. Tae-hyun had secretly purchased the entire building and transferred ownership into her name. When she confronted him, he simply smiled. The restaurant fell quiet. Sophia noticed people staring. Then Tae-hyun stepped forward and dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the room. Sophia's hands flew to her mouth. Tae-hyun looked up at her. Out of all the powerful speeches he had given in his life, this one mattered most. "I interviewed countless chefs." The room listened. Some were talented. A smile touched his lips. Some were famous. Sophia was already crying. But only one passed. More laughter spread through the restaurant. Tae-hyun's eyes never left hers. "And somehow she stole my heart too." He opened the ring box. "Sophia Bennett, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. The answer came instantly. Yes. Applause erupted throughout the restaurant. As Tae-hyun slipped the ring onto her finger, Sophia realized something. She had walked into his mansion hoping to save her family's future. Instead, she had found love. The kind of love neither of them had expected. The kind worth fighting for. The kind worth risking everything for. And this time, they would never let it go. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling us what you would have done if you were Sophia. Would you have accepted the job in the first place? We'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next story.